Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with Anthropic's latest raise. It is another monster round. Honestly, at this point, numbers are starting to become meaningless. Every company is raising $1 gajillion at a Googleplex valuation. But this one is interesting to me for a very specific reason, which is the way that at least some of their investors are framing Anthropic's focus. So first to the details, the company raised $3.5 billion in Series E funding, led by a $1 billion investment from Lightspeed Venture Partners, with Salesforce, Cisco, Fidelity, General Catalyst, D1, Jane Street, Menlo, and Bessemer all participating. Anthropic said in the most boilerplate of fundraising text, with this investment, Anthropic will advance its development of next-generation AI systems, expand its compute capacity, deepen its research in mechanistic interpretability and alignment, and accelerate its international expansion. Anthropic's valuation has now tripled since their February 2024 Series D. 1 year ago, the company was valued at $18 billion. The valuation is supported by skyrocketing revenue, which went 10x to hit $1 billion annualized by the end of last year. Bloomberg sources also suggest that Anthropic have already experienced another 30% revenue boost so far this year with the release of Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Certainly, it appears that there are no shortage of buyers for the foundation model companies at these mega rounds. Earlier reports had Anthropic only seeking to raise $2 billion, so it appears that an extra $1.5 billion was squeezed in. The information had previously reported that Anthropic expects to burn $3 billion this year, so this funding round should see them cleanly until 2026, unless, of course, they really step on the gas. All right, now I promised at the beginning of this that there was something interesting about this to me, and it comes from this offhanded tweet from Didi Das, who is a VC at Menlo Ventures. Didi writes, "Excited to announce that we at Menlo Ventures are doubling down on our investment in Anthropic. $61.5 billion is a small price for 10xing every software engineer." Now, of course, the caveat here is that this is just one investor's take. But the fact that he so clearly puts the value of Anthropic as tied to the specific use case of transforming and improving software engineering is really fascinating. If you asked Anthropic, they'd say that they were competing for AGI. Same way that OpenAI would say that. Same way that Sergey Brin said that in his recent memo to Google. So the fact that you have one of these investors who's just put a bunch of money back in this company, really honing in on this very specific use case is fascinating. Making it more interesting is the fact that it has become increasingly clear that there is really almost no technology moat right now when it comes to the foundation models. Sure, some can be state-of-the-art for a few weeks or even a few months, but after that, everyone catches up. It certainly doesn't seem defensible enough to build a real moat around. And yet, maybe the one exception to that is the chokehold that Anthropic has on coders. It has for some time now, really since the middle of last year, been the default choice as the coding assistant underlying model. It is, for example, what most people use inside Cursor, which has driven a huge amount of their revenue. And I don't think it's an accident that the release of 3.7 coincides with a big jump in their revenue, as that becomes the default model as well. Now, obviously, Anthropic is going to try to compete in more areas than just software engineering. But the fact that it has unlocked some magic in this area, and it continues to keep that lead, is really fascinating, if only because it's so out of sync with basically every other area of AI. Next up today, moving over to the infrastructure side of things, Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC has announced plans to invest $100 billion into the United States. The firm will use the money to expand operations in Arizona and construct 3 new chip plants. The investment will include 2 advanced chip packaging facilities as well as a research and development center. Over time, these plants could help bring the entire AI chip development and manufacturing cycle onshore. CEO C.C. Wei attended the White House for the announcement, which of course advances the long-held strategic goal of reviving domestic chipmaking. In the ceremony, President Trump made it clear that building up the industry was a matter of national security, and also tried to argue that it's evidence that his tariff policies are having the desired effect. He said, "If they did the chips in Taiwan to send them here, they'll have 25 or 30% or 50% or whatever the number may be in tariffs. It'll only go up. By doing it here, there's no tariffs." Trump boasted, "The most powerful AI chips in the world will be made right here in America." David Newman, CEO of tech advisory firm Futurum Group, speculated that the investment may indeed have been part of a deal to delay tariffs. He said, "As the U.S. continues to push for increased domestic manufacturing and with tariffs on the horizon, a substantial commitment from TSMC could serve as a strategic gesture of goodwill. The expansion of U.S. facilities could also be a boon for TSMC after the success of the Arizona plant. Planning for that facility began in 2020 and was bolstered by the Biden CHIPS Act. The fab ramped up into full production late last year and produced greater yields than TSMC's average output for Taiwanese facilities. The new commitment will be in addition to $65 billion that has already been earmarked to build out that Arizona facility. The news triggered concerns that TSMC was becoming an American company, with online commentators referring to the company as ASMC and saying that Wei, quote, looks like he has a gun behind his head, hostage situation. Taiwanese Economic Minister Kyo Ji-hoo responded, TSMC already has plants in the US and Japan, and now it's building a new plant in Germany. These have nothing to do with tariffs. TSMC's global expansion is a crucial development. Some pretty big stories today in the headlines here that certainly could have been their own main episodes. For now, though, we'll wrap there. And next up, move into a discussion of voice agents and a model which could be the ChatGPT moment for that particular subset of AI technology.